Hello, everybody. Here, I'm honored to be here with Bishop Dwane Brock. He is the presiding bishop of Covenant Ministries International Fellowship. He is the founder and CEO of the Eagle's Nest Leadership Corporation, which is a school in Erie, Pennsylvania, for teaching at-risk youth. Founder of Victory Christian Center Church in Erie, PA, and he's founded multiple other things. He also serves on numerous boards in Erie, Pennsylvania, and throughout the tri-state area. He's been an advocate for years. In his bio, they say he's been leading and advocating for over 40 years. So Bishop Dwane Brock, everybody, how are you doing today, Bishop?
I'm doing extremely well. Thank you for having me. And let me publicly say congratulations to you for winning the election as the new city councilman. And we're looking forward to working together and looking forward to great things coming from you.
Thank you, Bishop. That means a lot coming from you, and I will be definitely in contact with you to help. Need your guidance, need your tutelage and things like that.
We're in it together.
Right. So let's get right into it. Could you tell us where you were born, what city, what state, things like that?
Well, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. Raised in the great school district of Cincinnati Public Schools. Went to Xavier University, University of Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati Bible Seminary. And then getting ready to turn 21 years old. And of course I had already entered the ministry, and the bishop sent me to a place called Erie, Pennsylvania. That was back in June of 1980, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. So going back to Cincinnati, can you tell us anything about like growing up? What was the neighborhood like where you grew up? What was it like growing up in Cincinnati?
I grew up in a neighborhood called Avondale, and it was a middle class neighborhood. We did not necessarily see the escalation of violence or neighborhood blight or disrespect and things of that nature. It was a pretty good neighborhood, and the neighbors, we were closely knit together. And I was just home not long ago because my mom had passed, and the neighborhood's gone straight down, community blight and things of that nature. But I had a good upbringing. My father was not in the home for many of a year, but at a point then my father received Jesus as Lord and Savior of his life, came back home, and he ruled the home with an iron fist, and was my very, very best friend, very, very wise man. I'm the youngest of six, and again, it was a good family. My mother and father, they taught me how to clean, how to iron. We were very conservative. We had to do chores, and that's a word that young folk don't know anything about these days, but we had to do chores. We didn't have a mop, so we had to get on our hands and knees and clean the floors and baseboard. You know about things like that, because I know your mother. And we couldn't afford carpet, so we had the hardwood floors, and we had to use the Johnson paste wax. All of those type of dynamics that built character, that we learned, and my father and my mother, they taught us that. And then, like I said, I was in the ministry. I did believe it or not, I did my first sermon at age 10 at the St. John AME Zion Church. And from that point on, started being trained for ministry. And then again, at age 21, I was sent here to a place called Erie, Pennsylvania.
So, what did you learn from your parents? I mean, like, because you talked about your parents already and things, answer some of the questions I was going to ask you, actually. But what are some things that you learned from your parents that you still carry today in your life today?
Wow. My father always taught us to respect your home. And that's the message that I tell young couples and young men and young women that today, respect your home. And whatever it is that you do, whatever it may be, not that I'm advocating anything ill will, but whatever you don't ever bring it home with you.
Right.
Respect your home. Take care of your home. That's one thing my father drilled in us. He drilled for us as brothers and sisters to stick together and to support one another. He was very, very adamant about that. And even though for a number of years my father was not in the home, my father drilled the fact you better respect your mother. Because the interesting thing is, wherever my father was, Mom always knew where he was.
Right.
Now, I can't figure that one out. But Mom always knew where he was, and that if she had to call him, then we went into cardiac arrest because there were certain things that my dad did not tolerate at all. And disrespecting mother, talking back to Mom, and those type of dynamics, fighting in the home and all that. He never advocated that at all. So that's something that my dad really drilled in us. My mother and my father taught us how to cook and all that, and we learned how to clean. The interesting thing is my mother taught me about money. My mother taught me how to save money. And my mother actually taught me how to write a check. And so I tell people now when I'm writing checks and things like that, blame my mother.
Blame your mother.
But she taught me the importance of money, the importance of saving, and we've tried to carry those traditions on to my life today.
Right, right. So outside of the ministry, because you talked about getting into the ministry at a young age, did you have any type of career outside of ministry? Did you work in a factory? Did you have a trade or anything like that besides that?
Well, when I was going to school, oh gosh, I was able to get through school at an early age because I received several scholarships to the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. Believe it or not, I was a concert violinist. I tell people that they don't believe that at all.
I might need to hire you.
Yeah, I was a concert violinist then. And but I worked at the Findlay Street Provident Bank in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was a bank teller. I became a assistant manager. At that point, I was in charge of the vault procedures. That's before we had computers. We had the mechanical machines we had to utilize in the bank. And it was when I was working at the bank, and I was looking for a career actually in banking. But as I was working for the bank, that's when the bishop sent me to Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So when you came, so let's talk about that, because I was going to actually ask you how you ended up in Erie, because I know you grew up in Cincinnati. I know it says in your bio you've been down in Atlanta, Georgia, and different places. So coming to Erie and not being from here, what was difficult about establishing yourself in Erie and getting people to respect you and things like that? Was there difficulties to that?
And it still is. The mindset. The mindset of mediocrity is something that I immediately, and when I say that immediately, I mean that. This mindset of this is good enough for us. I had to deal with that. I had to attack that. I remember the first day I came to the city, it was on a Saturday in preparation for Sunday, and I went to the church, and I remember taking a handkerchief out of my back pocket, and I put it around a broom, the head of a broom, and I went through the church getting cobwebs down. I mean, I could tell you a myriad of stories, and that was 42, 43 years ago.
Right.
But what had happened, that people had become satisfied where they are. And so I have been fighting that fight ever since then. I know the time that I've had to call finance people in from Cleveland, Ohio, my insurance man, to come in and set our people up with life insurance because they didn't have any life insurance. Right. They were never taught to have life insurance. They were never taught savings. Many were on welfare, and they could not see themselves beyond welfare.
Wow.
And through our ministry, we've been able to show people that there is life beyond welfare, that God will bless you through hard work, determination, and His guidance. He will bless you, and it has happened. You know, there are people that have bought cars and homes, and their credit is booming, and we have people starting their own businesses, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, it was the mindset that we've had to actually deal with. I remember at the church, the pews were broken down, okay? And there was no air conditioner or anything like that. And so when in the summertime, the humidity was so bad that the pews would sweat, okay?
Right.
So when the women would wear their fine dresses to church, then the old varnish would get off and it would really destroy the women's clothing. I remember we had to pay, you know, they came and made me pay cleaners' bills and everything else because of that. But again, let's get some new pews. And I remember having a church meeting and I'm having to convince the people that you can do it. They were under the impressions that they could not do it because they had never done it before. I remember giving a litany of a lot of things that people did that was never done before. I said, the Wright brothers, airplane had never been invented at that time, but they did it. And I went on and on and on. So I think the major battle that I have had, and I have even today, 42, 43 years later, is dealing with the mindset of individuals.
So where you were born at, or other places you've been, you saying that mindset may not have been as prevalent there. So when you came here with the not that mindset, and to see it, you realize like I got to help raise these people out of this.
Yeah, I think where I came from, maybe it was there, but I didn't recognize it because I was not in a position of leadership.
Okay.
And I'm saying maybe, but I know that where I had come from, we were very progressive. The church was progressive. Our community was progressive, and things that I was involved in was progressive. But when I came to Erie, then again this mindset that I'm okay, the mindset that this is where God has me, and I'm okay. I'm on welfare. And I'll never get off welfare, and even those who were sick would say, "Well, I got to die of something." This dynamic, negative, mediocre mindset that people had was something that I had to attack, and maybe that's the assignment that God had given me. But that's what we've been doing ever since.
Right. So as a having your own church or being a pastor or a bishop, what are some great things about it? What are 2 or 3 great things about being in that position, being in that role?
Oh, well, you're saying two different things, because as a pastor, I'm a pastor locally, but as a bishop, I'm in charge of other situations around the country and whatnot. But nevertheless, I think being the founder of this particular ministry, I've been able to mold the kind of mold the people the way that I believe God would have them be molded across the years. And so I've been here, and some of these people have been with me from day one, and so they know how I think. Now they know what I'm going to go for. They know what I'm not going to go for, and I've been able to see the passion that I have. I've been able to see that passion transferred into them, and that's a tremendous, tremendous blessing. Being the founder, again, we don't have a whole lot of church meetings. People fight over anything. I remember when I was sent here to Erie, Pennsylvania. I remember the specific time the bishop announced it at a big conference, and then the young man that was sitting next to me, he was sent to Pittsburgh. Okay, I remember 2 or 3 months later, he calls me on the phone, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's getting ready to leave the church, leave the ministry. He's calling, he's crying and upset and everything. I said, "What the heck happened? What's going on?" He said, "Well, the people got to fighting at the church." I said, "What do you mean fighting?" He said, what happened?" He said, "We had a church meeting about what?" He said, well, I brought to the church whether we ought to have a post office box or keep the mailbox. And they got to fighting over that. I mean, as ridiculous as that sound, I've learned that people will fight over anything.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So a leader has to be able to make some choices, recognizing that everybody is not going to fall in line with this choice or that choice or whatever, but somebody has to make the choice. I would never bring to the church, what color are we going to paint the walls? Somebody has to make that choice. Mm-hmm. What color is the carpet going to be? Somebody has to make, where I like red, she likes blue, or whatever. Somebody has to make that choice. So I've learned some dynamic skills about leadership. So I don't have a whole lot of church meetings, but I cast vision, I lay the vision out, and I teach about the vision, I preach about the vision every Sunday. Every Sunday, I preach about the vision. Our people now have become vision-minded. Mm-hmm. They're vision engaged. They expect it. They know that it's going to happen, and it makes things a whole lot easier. So I think that's kind of the advantages of being able to be the actual founder of the church, local church. Yeah.
So what are some challenges of being a founder or leader of this your local church? What are some challenges that you deal with?
I think one challenge is, and it may be either my personality or my fault, the challenge of people becoming too common with you. Mm-hmm. The old folk used to say that if you play with a puppy, then the puppy's going to lick you in the mouth.
Right.
So leaders have to understand you cannot allow yourself to be so common with people. When I do leadership seminars wherever, all over the country, wherever I go, I talk about you cannot party with the people that you have to lead, because they will soon disrespect you. Can't do that. So, though I don't go out partying or anything like that, but I've had to learn how to draw the line, okay? And sometimes I have to isolate myself, and I had to learn that the hard way, because you play with people and things of that nature, then where they may not know where the line is drawn, and they will disrespect you, whether consciously or unconsciously, and that's not good for the body at all.
Right. So
that's one of the things I think. Maybe that's my personality, or that's a fault that I have. Every leader wants to be loved and wants to be accepted in the congregations and things of that nature, but you cannot allow yourself to be too common with the people.
Right. I want to go back to something you talked about. You talked about how some decisions you take out of the hands of, painting the walls, for example. Hey, you make that decision. The walls are going to be white. They're not going to. Right. We're not going to put that out there for a vote. Right. Do you think that our people, especially black people, respect it more? They do better when they have a clear person that's in charge, and not just, we're going to vote on everything, we're going to do this. No, this is the leader, and he's going to say, this is what we're going to do, we're going to move.
I love it. I love it, because, again, we don't have a lot of votes, and it's not the fact that they don't have say-so. They have a lot of say-so as far as the ministry is concerned, and they know that I have an open door policy. They can come and talk to me about anything and everything, but I tell them that when you come talk to me, come to me with some answers. Mm-hmm. Don't come to me with a lot of criticism, and it's okay to criticize. I don't have a problem with that. I'll deal with that too, but come to me with some solutions. And if you can't come to me with some solutions, I really don't want to hear it. And that's just the bottom line. I think that times dictate a very strong leadership style now. We are in trouble. Our world is in trouble. Our country is in trouble. Our state is in trouble. Our community is in trouble. We don't have time to be concerned about who's going to change the light bulbs, who's going to clean the baths. All of those type of ancillary things ought to be in place. We have to be about our Father's business, about spreading the kingdom and spreading the good news and changing lives. That's why we've started the school and built a basketball court and other things that we do, because that's what vision is about. Anything in nature with two heads is a freak of nature. God never made anything with two heads. There has to be one head, one person in charge. Now that person has to be wise enough to seek counsel from people that he can trust, he or she can trust. For an example, I have a bishop's council, and we meet frequently, and we get behind closed doors and let it rip, and we talk and share, and they know they can talk to me about anything, if something they don't like, whatever the case may be. But I know where their heart is. I know that they really love God, they love me, and they love the ministry, and they love the assignment. And so I know that their decisions is based upon where the church is going as far as our assignment is concerned. And that way we've been able to have some phenomenal success here in Erie, Pennsylvania, because of the Bishop's Council. So I think people need good leadership.
Right. So when people look at Bishop Brock, what do you want them to see?
When people look at me, I want them to see a man of excellence that's about his assignment. I breathe my assignment. I live my assignment. I don't live trying to impress anyone. Those days are long gone. Mm-hmm. I don't try to impress anybody about it. I don't try to move up next to anybody, to get my name called. I don't do things like that. I really don't. I want them to be able to see a man that strives for excellence. When people walk in our church, I want them to see excellence. When they walk in our school, I want them to see excellence. When they drive into our little campus here, I want them to see the grass not cut. I want the grass manicured. Okay? I want the hedges manicured. One thing I did, you won't believe this. This was a few years ago. I took my men, honest to God, I took my men as we got into the church van. Mm-hmm. We went downtown to Erie Insurance. I called the president of the company, who's a friend of mine. I called him. I said, now, if you see a group of black men walking around here, don't call the popo. Don't call them. They're observing. But I told them, you see how that is down there? You see how this is manicured? You see how the flowers are? I want the same thing. Bottom line. There is no rule book that says we cannot have it. So I demand, I mean that. I demand, and the folk around here, they know that. I demand excellence. If you see some trash or some glass or a bottle or a can on the property, pick it up and go out of your way and pick it up. I demand excellence because we represent the kingdom of God. Not only in the physical plant, but in my preparation for ministry. I spend time. It takes me people think that I can just get up and talk. And, as far as a sermon is concerned, it takes me hours to prepare a sermon. I have literally 1,000 books in my office. Wow. And I work hard in the preparation of a sermon. But not only do I spend time in sermon preparation, every morning I'm fellowshipping with God in prayer. I do it every morning. Every morning I spend time in prayer. It has nothing to do with the sermon or nothing else. It has to do with me. Mm-hmm. My personal relationship with God is very, very important. I spend time with God. So I want people to see that I endeavor to be a man of excellence who is passionate about his assignment, which is what God has called me to do.
Right. What do you think is the church's role in our community? I mean, do you feel like the church is doing a great job of fulfilling whatever role you believe it has?
I think we have failed. Councilman, I have buried more kids in this city than the other pastors combined across the years. We failed. A church, we spend a lot of time doing things that is ridiculous, doesn't make any sense. A king and queens contest in church, all of these types, and I'm not criticizing, it's an observation. We do these things, but it's not helping the people out there. I was telling the folk, I did a funeral last week, and I told the people, I remember when I started Victory Christian Center, you know where I was at? You don't remember. When I started Victory Christian Center, believe it or not, I was at the 20 grand bar. I would go to because that's where the people were at.
Right.
I would go to the 20 grand. Now, anybody that knows me, they know I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I don't know how to dance. Okay? But I would go to the 20 grand, the proprietor there, and I would go there, and she had a table for me there, and it was interesting because I would always drink orange juice and Sprite mix, but people found out, oh, it was Reverend Brock at that time. Reverend Brock is here, Reverend Brock is here, oh, so, and so the buzz started. What's he doing at the bar? What's he doing at the bar? Well, I was reaching people. I was reaching people. When I built the playground on 23rd and Holland, right there in the middle of the hood, I dealt with gang members that nobody else wanted to deal with. I built this ministry through the auspices of the Spirit of God, dealing with people that nobody else wanted to deal with. The castaways, the so-called lowlifes. The Bible calls them the poor, the maimed, the blind, and the halt. That's how I built the ministry. And we've been able to be relatively successful since those days.
Right. So let's go into, you started a school here.
Yes, sir.
So you've branched out from just being in the ministry as opposed to just, from a religious standpoint, you've gotten into the educational field. So why, can you tell us what the name of the school is, why you started it, what's the mission here?
Oh boy, Eagle's Nest School of Academic Distinction. Eagle's Nest School of Academic Distinction. Eagle's Nest. There's an old minister, you would know him, Perry Keys, okay, who's dead and gone now, and he's in heaven. Years ago, I was at our other church on 7th and Hess. I was building the sanctuary. I was carrying some bricks. Nobody else, but I'm carrying some bricks. So this older minister, Perry Keys, drives up an old beat-up Chevrolet. I hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 years, drives up. I recognize him. I said, Dr. Keys. He gets out of his vehicle, walks over to me, and this is what he says to me. God told me to tell you that you are an eagle. Gets back in his car and drives off. And from that point on, that thing just exploded in me. I went and got a book. In my other office, I have a book called Living Beyond the Level of Mediocrity, written by Chuck Swindoll. And every chapter has a picture of an eagle in it. So I did my research and my study and research and study about eagles, what they do, how they fly, how they see, the strength of an eagle, the other eyelids that eagles have, that whole dynamic. And so I wanted to interpret that as far as ministry is concerned. And so in fast forwarding that with these kids, they need to know they're eaglets, that they can fly. They can fly higher. They can fly faster. They can see, but they need help, and not just to be pushed aside. There's something wrong that when we have 6th graders reading at a 2nd grade level, and then districts all over the country are just promoting these kids, warehousing these kids and promoting these kids. And so they're not prepared to meet the demands of the job market when they graduate, or if they graduate from school. They can't read, they can't do comprehension or mathematics or whatever the case may be. And so it's a very, very serious situation. So I wanted to make a difference. I did not want to have a charter school per se. So I said, no, I don't want to deal with the charter school and all that. And I told the superintendent I would come up under the accountability of the school district, but I need the latitude to do what we do. and they went for it. And so I think this is our, third year, fourth year, and it's been pretty good. 78 students we have.
Wow. So I know you were talking about them wearing a shirt and tie. Why is that? What's the significance of that?
Distinction. People need to understand that, and these kids need to understand, and I don't call them kids, I don't call them students, they're called scholars. While we're on campus, they're called scholars. And we will say Mr. Troop or Mr. Dunstan or Mr. Jackson. They're scholars. They need to understand excellence, exceptionality. They need to understand how the business world works. They need to understand about uniforms. They need to feel good about those and not just wear a $150 pair of sneakers that only cost $2 to make, or wear this designer clothes, where this kid may have his family may have the money to buy designer clothes, and this other child, their family, they don't have the money to buy anything. And so sometimes they feel inferior because they don't have the money. Well, we wanted to eliminate all of those type of things. Put the uniforms on. If you don't have the money to buy the uniform, we will purchase that for you. But wear your uniforms. And so now we're getting into teaching them how to wash their white shirts and blouses, how to iron them, and to dress in a presentable fashion. So I'm real big on that, real big on that.
Right. You mentioned campus, because I see you got several buildings around here.
Yes, sir.
Do you own those? Does the school own them? Is that something that is important to you, like property ownership?
Absolutely. We own almost this entire city block, believe it or not. And we're really thankful. The Lord did it, no doubt about it. But I think it's important because that makes a statement that I wanted people to see something from the minority community, something that looks good, something that is a sense of excellence. So we took some houses and we tore them down just the other day, and we had those houses torn down. We plan on putting a big giant archway out there, so when you drive into the campus, you got to come up under the archway. Something that is abnormal in a positive way, but to actually have a camp. Not only should Mercyhurst University have a campus, or Gannon University have a campus, or Penn State Barron have a campus, well, Eagles Nest is going to have a campus also. And not just for the Eagles Nest scholars, but we want this campus to be for everybody, whosoever will let them come. And we're getting ready to build a gymnasium here and workout facilities, so you can come here and work out and for adults and whatnot, where people can come and have a wholesome, good, family-oriented time here.
Going back to the ministry stuff, a lot of people say, like, well, I'm not going to church or I'm not getting involved with the Lord, or because I see church folk doing this, or I see church folk. Why should I get involved? Say something to those people out there.
Well, that's being very hypocritical. That's an asinine, ludicrous excuse, because people go where they want to go. Well, there are people at the bar. You were there last night. You were at the bar last night, and there were people there you didn't like, but you went anyway. There may be people at the doctor's office you don't like, but you go anyway.
Right.
People at the grocery store you don't like, or you don't want to hang with, but you go anyway. But all of a sudden, the paradigm shifts, the dynamic changes when it comes to the church. The church is not perfect. The church is a hospital where people that need help come to. The minister is not perfect. I'm not suggesting that the minister should live like a rogue. I'm not saying that. But the minister is not perfect. The choir members are not perfect. There's no one in the church perfect, but we ought to be spiritually mature. So saying, well, I'm not going to church because they're hypocrites, well, by making that statement, you're being a hypocrite. You go to church. The church has been the foundation of who we are as a people. We would not be here if it were not for the black church. Everything, the fraternal organizations, socialization, politics, education, find everything started in the black church. There was once a time, you know the history, there was once a time our churches were packed out on Sunday morning because we knew. You know why we dressed up? I was telling this story the other day to folks. We dress up in church because we're going to see the King. Right. That's why we do it. We're not trying to show off our clothes, or shouldn't be. We're going to see the King. If I would dress up, if I'm invited to the White House to see the President Joe Biden, then I'm going to dress up. Well, on Sunday, guess what? I'm going to see somebody that is greater than the President of the United States. I'm going to see the King, so I dress up. That's why we did it. When we were coming along, we had to pick cotton as a people. We had to pick sugar cane and tobacco as a people, so we were dressed in rags. But when Sunday morning came, that's the only place where we could put on our best. Right. As an aid in worship, because we were going to see the King. So I think that whether folk really have that solid relationship with God or not, you ought to be in church on Sunday. You ought to be. Now they come on Easter. They come at the wedding. Why do you come at the wedding? Or why do you come to the funeral? They come then. I tell people, you live 168 hours a week. You mean to tell me you can't give God 2 hours on Sunday? That's ridiculous. Because guess what? Guess who you call on when you get in trouble? Nobody may not be around, but oh God, oh God. God, during the storm, God hears a whole lot of strange voices. Oh God. Go to church.
So one of the things that you're really known for is your work in the community too, outside. So you're the church, now you're in the education or ownership of things like that. Excellence. What do you think is, if you had to give the state of our community, black community in Erie, what would you say is going on in our community right now?
We've been left behind. We have been left. I sit on the board of a bank in town, and I said this at the board meeting that Ralph Ellison wrote the book called The Invisible Man, and we've been left behind, and we're not prepared. We're not ready. The world is going on. The world is moving on. The world is not going to stop and wait to see whether we're going to get ourselves together or not. The world keeps on moving on. And we've been left behind because we're still, in many cases, acting very immature. And we're not taking leadership in charge of our families. We're not taking charge of our monies. We're not, white folks' ice is colder than our ice. And whoever's listening, you think about that when you'll get it in a couple hours, But these are problems that we can solve. When you got 30% of our young men won't graduate from the Erie school district, these are issues that we can solve. The churches can get involved. When we have more passion with Facebook, it has become an addiction, and it's sad. It's become an addiction. When we have more passion with that than God's book, the Bible. So there are some issues that we need to clean up in our community. I'm very, very serious. I'm not trying to be overly critical, but there are some issues we need to clean up in our community. This world is moving on. What they're doing in the downtown district right now, I mean, they're exchanging millions and millions of dollars are changing hands, and we keep talking about, well, there's no opportunity here. Wait a minute. You think you're going to find it if you move to Atlanta, or you move to Charlotte, or you move to Baltimore? You don't understand. The problem is not in the environment. The problem is in your heart and in your mind. There's a whole lot of money, and you know this to be true. A lot of money is exchanging hands in Erie, Pennsylvania. Right. We are not ready, and we're not prepared. Our responsibility is to get ready and be prepared, because if there's a businessman out here, his number one concern is the welfare of his business, right? In other words, he's wanting to make money. That's bottom line.
Right.
He wants to, that's why he's in business, to make money. He doesn't give a squat whether you black, white, or polka dot. If you can do the job, and you can prove that you can do the job, guess what? If you can help him make money, he's going to pay you to help him make money.
Right.
That's called American capitalism.
So when you talk about the black community and the issues that you just described, do you feel like those are things that we can fix ourselves?
Yes.
Or do we need others to really help us fix those problems?
I think there's some things we can do ourselves. And is it going to be tough? Absolutely. But there's some things we can do ourselves. I didn't know, and I hope I don't get in trouble mentioning names or names of institutions, but a couple years ago I went to way out on the west side to the Lake Shore Country Club. I think that's the name of it. I never even knew there was a Lake Shore Country Club. I didn't know. I walked in there and I saw opulence. Oh my God. Oh my goodness, I didn't know this place existed. I mean, they had the locker room, they had the golf club, and,
Right.
and they had a bar there, the auditorium there, and they had the restaurant there. I said, oh my God, look at this. And I got angry. Now, I guess I'm going to get some phone calls, but that's okay, I've handled it before. But I said, what do we have? Elks Club? It's an embarrassment. We can do better as a people. Until a person gets angry with their present circumstance, they'll never make a change. So if I can make people angry about our present circumstance, then that's exactly what I will do.
Right. So once again, we are here today with Bishop Dwane Brock. As I said, he's the presiding bishop of Covenant Ministries International Fellowship. He's the founder and CEO of a school, Eagles Nest Leadership Corporation. He's a founder of Victory Christian Center locally, a church in Erie, PA. Serve on numerous boards, community advocate. Bishop Brock, before we end today, I have a list of things here. I'm just going to say a word, and I want you to say what comes to your mind just off the top of your head.
Rapid fire.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Serving others.
Christ.
Leadership.
What I really want to do.
Erie, PA.
Needs help.
The black family.
Needs more help.
Education.
Pathway to success.
Excellence.
My legacy.
Gun violence and violence.
A serious disorder in our community.
Fathers.
Responsibility.
Mothers.
They've had the Herculean task of raising families.
God.
Our source of life, health, and strength.
Bishop Brock, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this interview today. And I can tell you that when I came to the campus, I saw excellence. When I come to services here, I see excellence. I see excellence in the way people move, the way it looks, and just everything I see. So you are setting an example for everything that you're doing, and you've done a lot for people. And do you want to finish up with any words for?
Could I say this, and I mean this because I've said this behind your back, that when I look at you, I see hope. That, and knowing your mother, some of your family members, I see hope. I see that all is not gone, all is not in a state of despair, that with people like yourself, and I think God is strategically planting people like yourself in positions to get some things done for His glory. So I want to thank you for what you have done, and thank you for even putting yourself in the position to be shot at. And I mean verbally, verbally shot at and whatnot, but yet you have been prepared for such a time as this. So I'm excited, and whatever I can do to help you do what it is that you do, I'm only a phone call away, and I mean that from the depths of my heart. And I want to thank you for this opportunity of sharing right now.
Thank you, Bishop Brock, and we're very appreciative. We're honored to do this. Thank you very much.
Blessings.